love the fact that you're kind of in the country. You're right in nature, but yet you're so close to the city and the amenities. Love that we're close to the lakes and to the mountains, the fresh air. I also enjoy the community. I like that there's lots of friendly people around. You know, people get to know each other and walking your dog, and it just feels safe and private. I just love living here.
I quite often say that this community is the best of two worlds. We're living amongst nature, trails, lakes, wildlife, and we're very close to amenities. And it's just a fantastic place that you'd have a hard time finding it somewhere else. Our family moved to Anmore in 1978, and we moved into what is known as the Murray home. My father was thinking to take the house down and build a new house. The house wasn't in great shape, and the mayor at the time decided that he would like to see the house saved. And my father then decided to donate the house, at which time that became the village hall.
We used that as our village hall for staff, et cetera, et cetera. But that building became more and more dilapidated over time and actually became structurally unsound.
It needed a substantial amount of work to be able to brought up to grow with the community. We could only have council meetings that only had 20 people in there. We weren't able to store our records because of the water ingress that was happening and the dampness.
We moved into the Atco trailers, which we've been residing in for a number of years. And those trailers, thankfully, really served the purpose pretty well. We ran our operations, our offices and staff out of the trailers. And then we used to use the school for our meetings, but couldn't always get the dates and times we wanted. So we leased 3 more trailers, and that became our village halls / chambers / everything.
We were going to actually at one point clad them and make them all fancy, and I actually voted, I said no. I didn't want people to become complacent with using those. We as a community deserve something much better, and we also needed something that would bring the sense of community back.
It took us longer than we had hoped, but we felt that we needed to be extremely financially sound and that we needed to be in a position where the village could afford to pay for the building in its entirety without a grant or without debt, should we choose to do so. We
had about a $10 million infrastructure deficit. That didn't even include a new village hall. It was just the road work and that. But we always kept our number 1 and 2 priorities were Sunnyside Road and a new community hub. The
concept of replacing the temporary trailers made a lot of sense, but it needed to be funded. So in order to do that, we cut all the fat out of the operating budget as much as we possibly could. Unfortunately, we also had to raise some taxes and put away reserves.
The hub budget, which is a set budget, is close to $8 million right now, and there's about a $500,000 contingency on that. So we've got about $12 million in our reserve, so we could pay cash for this building. Luckily, the council and I have some pretty good relationships with senior governments, and we were able to secure a $2.5 million grant, which is amazing.
When it came time to actually replace the trailers, we didn't feel that replacing them with a simple admin building would be sufficient. If we're going to spend a lot of money on permanent assets, those assets need to serve the village until they've essentially been depreciated to nothing and repay themselves.
Currently, we don't have much of an emergency center, and this building will provide all that, have all our supplies there to be able to facilitate any sort of emergency. We're going to be able to handle all our archives. And also, we're going to be able to incorporate a bit of history as well, which was really important that this council in the design wanted to implement.
It really hasn't had a sense of a grounding for our community, which I think is really important. The house had some grounding, but I think having a community center, village hall, and a place for people to meet is really important. I look at that area as the heart of Anmore, where you've got East Road coming into Sunnyside is it's really the center of the community.
The hub is roughly in the geographic center of Anmore, and we wanted it to be something that the village residents could use. Not just use for their admin needs, not just use to pay their taxes, etc., or get information, but actually use themselves.
We're going to be able to host a ton of events. We won't be so weather dependent. If the weather is bad, people will be able to come and we'll be able to do Easter events inside. Same with Christmas. Our citizens will be able to enjoy much more engagement of the community, which is so vital. You know, the one thing that communities need is areas to bump into people. And we don't even have a coffee shop in this community to do that. This is going to enable this. This is going to be a hub where people are going to bring people together so that we can discuss issues, we can discuss concerns.
One of the biggest factors in getting this thing in the ground is that we've been in an unprecedented inflationary period. The cost of houses, commercial buildings, everything has gone through the roof.
We've given up a bit of size. We've also given up a bit of the fancy things, the fancy glazing, a lot of the awnings. We've given up a lot of the, the timber on the roof and soffits and stuff like that.
We committed to ourselves and to this community we would bring it in on budget, and so we had to change things. The design elements of the building were able to be maintained while changing materials. And we were able to keep the functionality of the building intact. We were able to keep the look fairly close to the original design. All this glazing back to here, that cost in here is more than 50% of the 400. So the overall presence on the ground will be very close, and we're making a beautiful building. Far cheaper. We've taken over $2 million out of the budget to get back down to where we needed to be. Yeah, on the main floor of the building, we have a 4,000 square foot hall, which will have a patio deck off the west side facing Spirit Park. And that hall is going to have a dividing wall. It can hide away, so you can use the full 4,000 square feet, or two parties can use the space if they don't need that much room at the same time. In addition, on the lower floor, we've enhanced the outside bathrooms for our events, for Christmas and Halloween and Momery days and all the things that we normally do down there.
I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be an opportunity for people to be able to plan more events and to book events and meetings, have that facility local.
I think in general, a sense of community. People are going to be proud of this in our village. People are going to want to come here and get involved in events. The one thing I will tell you with living in this community, you go through a period where you're involved in the elementary school, and that's where you usually meet all your friends and families and that. But as soon as you leave there, there's no reason to meet. We don't bump into each other.
There will be opportunities for people to, maybe showcase some of their art or their products or their business. Maybe there's some kind of a fair that could come up, and have an opportunity to see what other people have to offer that live amongst us.
I think it gives stability. I think it gives stability to this community as it continues to evolve and grow. It's important to look at the history. It's also important to look at where we are today. But even more important, we have to look at where we're going. And this community is going to continue to evolve and grow. And we really do need to have a place for people to conduct business, to have meetings, to have events. And that sense of adding to community and meeting your neighbors and meeting your friends and family in a setting like that is huge. It's about time. It's really about time.